Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, regardless of what time zone you're in. Thank you for tuning in to listen to my opinion here on Politapod. So today we have Elon Musk. DOGE team breaks silence on what? We're going to have to find out. Let's see.
The ways that the government is defrauded is that the computer systems don't talk to each other. So if the computer systems don't talk to each other, then you can exploit that gap, and fraudsters exploit that gap, take advantage. For example, there were over $300 million of Small Business Administration loans that has been given out to people under the age of 11.
Well, actually, to add to it, it's $300 million under the age of 11 and over $300 million to over the age of 120.
Definitely
small business loans.
Correct.
Yes. The oldest American is 114. So it's safe to say if their age is 115 or above, they're fake. Or they should be in the Guinness Book of World Records. And we should not be giving out loans to babies. So the youngest recipient of a Small Business Administration loan is a 9-month-old, which is a very, very precocious baby we're talking about here. So obviously it was just fraudulent. And
very fraudulent. So somebody's not doing something on either end. Either the parents of that child are doing something fraudulent, because everybody knows that there's times where people would put utility bills in their kids' names because they haven't paid their bill and they need new service. So in this loan thing, that they could possibly do the same thing, or the government's just not paying attention, or whoever's giving a loan out isn't paying attention to any of the details.
And they do terrible things. They actually will see that a kid's been born. They will steal that kid's social security number and then take out a loan and leave that kid with a bad credit rating. There was literally a baby. The terrible things are being done is what we're saying. And we're stopping these terrible things.
And you can stop it? I mean,
we are stopping it.
The reason this is happening is because the two systems are not talking to each other.
Yes.
Right? And so you don't know at
the two systems. Yes, I had to stop it again. So I said this in another video before about the older people that don't want to use computers, and the operating systems not being updated in some of these facilities, in some of these corporations and government offices. They just leave the thing on there. Nobody has done nothing to it. I've been in places where the computers are just sat there and they're turned on. They're on and they're functional, but here we are in Windows 10 or 11, and then there's still XP on these machines, just running.
the Small Business Administration that you're giving a loan to a 9-month-old, which happened in one case, because you're not cross-referencing that with the Social Security Administration data that has birth dates. So that very, very simple fix eliminates tremendous fraud. And that there are multiple systems across the government where the systems are not speaking with one another. And if you just solve that simple problem, you would solve a huge amount of fraud.
Are you surprised? So one of the ways that, like one of the key tricks that the fraudsters pull is that they will use the fact that someone is marked as live, and as sort of just that Social Security number is marked as live in Social Security, and then get disability and unemployment insurance for a dead person. Because the databases don't talk to each other, all they got was from Social Security is like, is this person alive? Yes, they're not alive. It's falsely marked. Person is falsely marked as alive in Social Security, but they didn't. But that person, a fraudster can now get unemployment and disability from a dead person. This is happening all the time at scale.
Are you surprised at some of the legal efforts and some of the judges that have weighed in? There's about 8 or 10 now of these cases that are at least temporary holds. They're being challenged by the DOJ.
Right.
Are you surprised by that pushback?
Well, it's the D.C. Circuit is notorious for having a very far-left bias. And when you look at the people close to some of these judges, where are they working? Oh, they're working at these NGOs. Oh, they're the ones getting this money. Does that seem like a system that lacks corruption? It sounds like corruption to me.
Last thing, do you guys all see this as a patriotic duty? I mean, is that really what this is about?
It's essential.
Very much
I do, 100%. I was running 5 businesses in Houston, and I left that. I left great people to do this, and my wonderful wife said, go for it. and here I am. But I feel like this is me giving back to the country.
If we don't do this, we're sunk. The ship, unless this exercise is successful, the ship of America will sink. That's why we're doing it.
Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate the time. Hassan, Interior Department, you're a former oil company CEO. You're reviewing contracts before they're approved for funding. What are you finding?
Well, Elon and Steve kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but I actually found that customer service survey contract. I actually have an example of one right here. I could have done this in high school. And
Is that right?
I found it.
Is that bad?
I found it on the weekends because under the Biden administration, there was no departmental oversight within the Department of Interior whatsoever. None.
Okay, not to defend anybody, but this has been going on way before the Biden administration. It was just accelerated at the Biden administration, and now it's at the forefront because it was happening at a scale before that nobody was paying attention to it. It was just slipping through the cracks, and it was just normal for everybody to go along with it. Now that it's accelerated through the Biden administration, now people are like, what's going on here? What's going on? You can't hide it. It's too much to try to slip through the cracks.
We are now reviewing every single contract, every single grant, and when things come to my attention that don't make sense, I'm bringing them to Secretary Burgum, and he's been fantastic. He's a businessman. He's very supportive of DOGE. It's been wonderful to work with him.
Is the battle between government of decades of buildup and business, which you guys are, is that like a train hitting each other? I mean, it seems like it's pretty disruptive.
Well, this is a revolution, and I think it might be the biggest revolution in government since the original revolution. But
I don't really think he's asking the right questions. I think he's staying on a level of surface, so the interview doesn't get complex as far as what's been going on and all the data that they don't have or do have. I think people that like me, we want to hear different questions like, where do you put your, how can people get this, and where did you get this? The rabbit hole questions. Some of us want these rabbit hole questions, and they're not going to it. Which I think they should.
at the end of the day, America is going to be in much better shape. America will be solvent. The critical programs that people depend upon will work, and it's going to be a fantastic future. But are we going to get a lot of complaints along the way? Absolutely. One of the things I learned at PayPal was who complains the loudest and with the most amount of fake righteous indignation? The fraudsters. It's a tell. There's some of these NGOs that are crazy, like the $2 billion to Stacey Abrams' NGO that basically didn't exist and suddenly gets $2 billion awarded from the federal government. Why? And there are many such cases like that.
I think that most people, common sense-wise, would say the fraud's got to end.
Yeah.
They're concerned about the 94-year-old mother who skips a check or somehow doesn't get what she's supposed to get.
Right. And what we're trying to say is actually that the 94-year-old grandmother is actually, as a result of DOGE's work, going to get her check. She's not going to be robbed by fraudsters like she's getting robbed today. And the solvency of the federal government will ensure that she continues to receive those Social Security checks, that Medicare continues to work, without which we're all doomed. The reason we're doing this is because if we don't do it, America's going to go insolvent. We're going to go bankrupt. And nobody's going to get anything.
Why are you guys all doing it? I mean, you can pipe up, but you don't have to be here, right? I mean, you don't have to be doing this.
I have 4.
Nobody has to do anything. Nobody has to. Garbage people don't have to take out the garbage. Policemen don't have to be policemen. Firefighters don't have to be firefighters. Lawyers don't have to be lawyers. And teachers don't have to teach. Nobody has to be doing anything. But the greater question is, why are you doing it? I guess, why are you doing it? I don't know. They want to. They want to. That's the greater question. Nobody has to do anything they don't want to. But why are you doing it? Because they want to. Or whatever their reason is. And whatever reason that somebody else is doing what they're doing is what I really meant to say.
Blessed with 4 beautiful children, my wife and I. but we have a real fiscal crisis. And this is not sustainable. And what's worse, back to my children and everyone else's children, is we are burdening them with that debt. And it's only going to grow.
Steve, there's not a lot of hierarchy here. You guys are kind of all approaching it in different, silos, but with the same kind of goal, right? I mean, this is really Silicon Valley, private sector colliding with government.
Yeah, exactly. And we're headed in a bad path, but then the chance of success exists. And just the one that just is in my head right now, which is a fairly mundane one, but I think is very illustrative, is credit cards. There are in the federal government around 4.6 million credit cards for around 2.3 to 2.4 million employees. This doesn't make sense.
Right.
And so one of the things all of the teams have worked on is we've worked with the agencies and said, do you need all of these credit cards? Are they being used? Can you tell us physically where they are?
I hope they're getting frequent flyers.
Actually, on a different note, the rewards program the federal government has is actually not very good. That's a whole other...
It's a negotiation.
Sure, yeah, exactly. But so far, the teams have worked together, and they've reduced it from 4.6 million to 4.3 million. So
we're taking it easy. But clearly there should not be, more. There should not be more credit cards than there are people. Yeah.
Joe, middle-level employees, are they seeing a benefit to being empowered by taking out bureaucracy? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, I think what you're seeing is taking the best of Silicon Valley and the business world and bringing it into the government. We're bringing the best practices and the best methodologies, and people are inspired. Right, especially on the retirement process. I
mean, this all does sound like a great plan, and I hope whatever they're trying to do, that it's going to work out for everyone to increase the happy and good things in life, and minimize the struggles in the financial system of this country, which people are in all walks of life in this country. Different. Each state has different gas prices, taxes, everything's different. But everyone, like I said before, everyone still has to deal with the same issues. So when the only people that know about these issues are the people that are controlling this stuff, the financials and all that other stuff, so they can see it and they can do it. You know what I mean? So hopefully that, all this stuff that you're saying, will actually lead to something good. Something. It's not going to be 100% good, and it's not going to be, everything's going to change. And it's going to be 10 times, 20 times better. As long as we get a little bit. I think we're going to get a little bit, maybe.
I can speak to. They've been trying to modernize and get off of paper since early 2000s, very unsuccessfully. Every attempt has gone over budget and been canceled because it hasn't been successful. And so, I showed up, and I feel like I'm here because it's an interesting problem. We can use design to solve it and good engineering and really create a better experience for everybody.
We're talking about elementary financial controls that are necessary for any company to function. So, like, if the federal government if a commercial company operated the way the federal government does, then it would be immediately go bankrupt. It would be delisted. The officers would be arrested. And the changes we're putting in place will enable the federal government to pass an audit. It will enable taxpayers to know where the money is going and know that their hard-earned tax dollars are being spent well.
Elon Musk sitting down for an exclusive interview, a fascinating interview, alongside 7 members of the DOGE team, giving a peek behind the curtain of President Trump's cost-cutting department.
It was a riveting 50 minutes. The team consists of a wide range of experts, including a former rocket scientist and one of the co-founders of the rental site, a billionaire himself from Airbnb.
So the DOGE team also consists of engineers, and all have the same goal: to slash wasteful government spending. Watch.
Our goal is to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion.
You technically are a special government employee, and you're supposed to be 130 days. Are you going to continue past that, or do you think that's what you're going to do? Or?
Well, I think we will have accomplished most of the work required to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion within that time frame. We actually want to be careful in the cuts, so we want to measure twice, if not thrice, and cut once. Actually, that is our approach. they may characterize it as shooting from the hip, but it is anything but that.
Some people say this shouldn't take a rocket scientist. Steve Davis, you are a rocket scientist.
Used to be. That all of us are willing to kind of put our lives on hold in order to do. I think the thing that's special right now is we actually believe there's a chance to succeed.
We really believe that the government can have an Apple Store-like experience. Beautifully designed, great user experience, modern systems.
Not the Genius Bar. Don't bring up the Genius Bar. Well, I don't want to get too much into it. We're going to do what we can. And, cover what we can. And then you can just, do your research from there. We'll continue a little bit more.
All of these people look so normal, but so brilliant at the same time. I mean, it just casually says, well, I used to be a rocket scientist. Yeah. And now we're getting free resources of some of the smartest individuals in our country. The leaders should be more grateful that we have access to this amount of resources. They built great companies, have great success, not asking for a paycheck. They're just trying to cut the waste in the country right now.
This is what happens when you put a businessman in charge of the government. He's going to run it like a business. There is no business that would survive with the amount of debt we have and the inefficient systems that we're running. Social Security, a giant program with paper, and it takes so long for people to actually retire, and there's so much fraud in the system. So absolutely, really lucky to have these people coming in, and it just leaves you wondering, Brian, why wasn't this done before?
Yeah, communicate exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
They had an option, and Vivek Ramaswamy talked about it. He said, he was more putting together a report, giving it to Congress and telling him to do it.
Too slow.
And Elon said, no, we're going to cut in real time. And it's caused controversy when you just say, hey, I just emailed out, we got to let go a whole bunch of people. That was before the secretaries got in place. Now that the secretaries are in control of their department, and now they're going to the Pentagon and Social Security, but they're not cutting benefits, and they're cutting out how many, for example, 120-year-olds are getting Social Security checks, and how many 9-month-olds are getting small business loans. There's no way for them to check what's going on. They also said there was no way of checking where any of the money was going. An invoice would come in, it would be paid, it would go out. They couldn't believe what they were witnessing, and that made them they gave them more of a sense that they got to fix this because it was he believed, so easy to fix. They have a computer system that handles billing that is 50 to 60 years old. That is so.
Okay, so here's what it comes down to, honestly. They say fraud, waste, and abuse. And then they forgot one word. The most is neglect. Neglect to update the systems, neglect to update the data, okay? Neglect to do this and neglect to do that, which causes it to look like there's fraud there's waste, but this stuff is already counted and it's been this and it's been that. I mean, it sounds like it from what, they're saying, the computer systems are old, the data hasn't been put in correctly or the data hasn't been updated correctly. Nobody's doing it. So it is neglect. There's a lot of neglect more. I think there's a lot more neglect than anything else. And they're just putting it in as waste, fraud, abuse, just to say, look, we're really doing some damage here when it actually is. You got to go in there, update the systems, take out what's old and straighten out what's new. And you can't put anybody accountable to certain things because, if there was a lot of fraud, you would have people that are responsible for that fraud. And you can't just say, okay, there's fraud and abuse and not have anybody accountable for that. There's a lot of neglect. Okay? If there's neglect, okay, well, we just got to fix it because the people that used to work here neglected to put in this data or neglected to do this operating system. This IT team doesn't come in and update the system because we neglected to call an IT team to come and do this. We neglected to put in this data that 500 people this year gotten Social Security checks and how many checks they've gotten. We neglected to put that in there. Oh, we've neglected to look at the information of the person's Social Security number and figure out that it was a child. We neglected to do that. we just neglected to. We just ran it through. Okay, I'm only here for a paycheck. I'm here for my job. I don't care. Let the next person do it. I could see that happening. But, you know, you make your own decisions. Everybody makes their own decisions. And that's why we're human. We have our own opinions and our own thoughts. It's just up to all of us to research things on our own scale. So, but that's all I have for this episode. Okay? So make sure you subscribe. Share the video. If it's some things you learned or if some things you know, put it in the comments. Put it in the comments and share that so we can keep these conversations going. We got to keep these conversations going, and then we'll learn how to connect our information the right way. All right? They're giving us the opportunity to do it. We just got to take that opportunity and make it work. So put your comments down in the comments, subscribe so you can continue coming back to this. I don't say that too often, but you know what to do. You know what you want to do. All right? Until next time. We'll see you later. Have a good one.